Carl, what have you done?
Think anyone will notice? Mr. Carl Jackson.
Carl Jackson was born and raised in Los Angeles, California. After the sudden death of his mother at the age of 11, he moved between LA and Orlando, Florida, trying to find his way in life.
So I'm clearly a Carl Jackson fan.
Carl Jackson.
Carl Jackson.
Carl Jackson.
Although he was introduced to hard work, faith, and family values, as a struggling teen, he wandered down the path of least resistance, finding himself jailed twice. By the grace of God, he attended an evangelical church and found that there was a better way and accepted Jesus Christ as his Savior.
There's just no fake stuff about Carl Jackson.
Now, on the Salem Podcast Network, Carl has launched on a journey to help people of all races and backgrounds to discover facts of America's true past, as well as realize the benefits of utilizing their God-given gifts and talents, which far outweigh any benefit from a government subsidy or program.
It's dangerous out here. Let's roll, Carl.
Get going fast!
Redeemed, rehabilitated, and real entertaining. This is the Carl Jackson Podcast.
Hey, welcome to the Carl Jackson Podcast. Please follow me on Facebook, Carl Jackson Radio, Twitter, and Parler at Carl Jackson Show. Everywhere that you can find podcasts, Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube. Make sure you click the bell on YouTube, Rumble. Really appreciate that. Please like and share. That'll help us get our name out there and spread freedom across the United States of America. All right. Here's what I want to do. I want to give you a quick update on what's happening in Ukraine, and this will be a quick update. I'm not going to dive in deep to Ukraine. I'm sure every single one of you have been following everything that's going on with that. I do want to tell you what is essentially happening, and as the week goes on, I'll dive in deeper to that story. But essentially, this is a Green New Deal war. This is a green energy war. I'll explain that. I'll connect the dots a little later this week. We all know that Biden is completely feckless. He has sent about $350 million worth of supplies to Ukraine, but it is far too little, too late. I will say this as well. KT McFarland, you guys know her. She used to work underneath or in the Trump organization, and she is a foreign policy, national security expert. She talked about with the Daily Signal how Vladimir Putin, this is about energy to him. This is about oil to him. He believes that this is how he will assert Russia's dominance is to make sure that he controls the oil supply in Europe. So we could easily curtail Putin if we wanted to by simply reopening the Keystone XL pipeline. As a matter of fact, Vladimir Putin wrote about that in a dissertation, wrote about reclaiming or restoring Russia to its age of prominence, if you will, simply by controlling the oil market. So this is nothing new for Vladimir Putin. There's also a race. There's an unlikely alliance, if you will, between China and Russia. They don't get along. Except they are somewhat in this fight together. Notice that China is sitting back. Russia is going to be more dependent upon China as all of these sanctions roll in. China is going to continue to help them out. China wants to be the big dog. China wants to bring down the dollar. They want their currency to be the top dog around the world. That's China's end game. They're playing the long game. Putin knows this. Putin is trying to survive. He's trying to bring Russia to prominence. We'll see how it works out. Here's the latest hat tip Breitbart reports Ukraine and Russia ceasefire talks have started. Russia and Ukraine began talks Monday at the Belarus border as the conflict between the two neighbors enters its fifth day. By the way, this Belarus president is a punk as well. So he's talking about sending troops into Ukraine. It's just a scary situation for Ukraine. I'm going to ask you to continue to pray for the people of Ukraine. The Ukrainian presidential advisor, Mikhailo I'm hacking these names, but Mikhailo Podolyak told Reuters via text message the face-to-face exchanges had begun. The Ukrainian president's office said earlier the talks' aim was an immediate ceasefire and withdrawal of Russian forces from Ukraine. I'm so glad that Volodymyr Zelensky is demanding that Russia not only cease fire, but they withdraw from Ukraine. This is not their country. This is not Vladimir Putin's country. Ukraine is a sovereign country, and I was concerned with peace talks. Obviously, Putin is former KGB. You can't take the guy seriously. The guy is going to be a complete and utter liar. He is a complete and utter liar, but he's experiencing some pressure inside of Russia itself with massive protests popping up, even though Russia is attempting to crack down on those protests. The article goes on to say, President Volodymyr Zelensky said 16 Ukrainian children have been killed and another 45 have been injured in the Russian invasion. However, he did add that over 4,500 Russian troops have been killed and urged Putin's troops to lay down their guns and leave. Obviously, no one expected for Zelensky and the Ukrainian people to be able to endure the barrage of fire and the attacks from the Russian military. So far, they've been able to sustain. So that's been thoroughly impressive. However, I'm not sure how long they can last, how long they can hold out, but they do have a will to fight. Thank God for that. But again, this is all a green energy war. That's why you heard the feckless John Kerry come out and talk about it was like climate change was the biggest issue on his mind. And again, Russia and China have something different going on. Again, China wants to make sure that they are the dominant currency. That's their long-term goal, to surpass American currency and not be the world's currency, if you will. They don't want America to be the world's currency. So that's the end goal. So you have China, Russia battling these green energy countries. This is a green war. This is a green war, just to clarify it. Also, Zelensky added in a video message Monday that every crime, every shelling by the occupiers bring our partners and us even closer. The Ukrainian delegation was the first to arrive for the talks with Russia, saying they were unclear whether they'll lead to breakthrough. And I don't suspect that they necessarily will. Like I said, Putin is a dictator. Putin is a thug. And although these countries aren't free in the way that we are, speaking of Ukraine, obviously Russia isn't. Obviously, we're all more sympathetic to Ukraine based upon Putin's assault on Ukraine. Another quick story. Trump is vindicated. Germany is finally going to pony up. They're going to finally pay for their NATO spending. So Germany has lifted its ban on selling weapons to Ukraine and has committed to finally meet its NATO defense spending requirements after the Russian invasion, in a move vindicating longstanding criticism from former President Trump. Isn't it amazing how once you come under threat and once your life is threatened, once you don't have a strong man in the White House, all of a sudden you realize, oh my goodness, we do have to defend ourselves? It's pretty amazing. So anyway, I'm going to go in a little deeper into these stories. Obviously, tomorrow evening is going to be the State of the Union speech with Biden. He's going to want to look good. So he's going to talk it up. Demand justice is going to talk it up for him, talk up his record for him as they continue to try to seize the country. I want you to understand who's really in charge of the White House. That is demand justice. And I'm going to get into that quickly here. And I'm going to go into a deep dive. I want to talk to you about Ketanji Brown Jackson. I had not done this thus far, but I think it's really important that we get into her and what this represents. I want you to understand all of this stuff is interconnected. All of this stuff, whether it's to turn America into a green energy company, whether it's to appoint, nominate, and then eventually appoint a Ketanji Brown Jackson to the Supreme Court of the United States. All of this is meant to bring America down to size. Now, listen, I'm an everyday man. I'm an everyday American, just like the rest of you out there. So you might be thinking, Carl, how does this affect the little man? And the reason why I talk about this, because I've been thinking about, I want clarity on this podcast. I want you to know what we stand for. And we're still working to rename it. It's funny how many names we've come up with, and people already have those names. But the essence of this show is to provide you big stories, and I want to be able to illustrate to you how they impact you, how they impact the everyday American. I love all Americans. I don't like all Americans, but I love all Americans regardless of party affiliation, regardless of income class. But I do want to protect the working class. This is becoming clearer and clearer to me as the left, the Democrats, and the global elites that gather together annually in Davos, Switzerland. They want to destroy us. They want to destroy the middle class, if you will, across the globe. And I want to be a voice for you. I want to stand up for the working class. I've been poor, and now I'm a part of the middle class, and I want to be a part of the wealthy class. And you have these global tyrants, these global wannabe dictators around the globe that want to destroy that. But it also comes down on to national levels and local levels, even whether it's social justice teachers that are brainwashing your kids, and university and college campuses that are brainwashing your kids, or if it's people like Ketanji Brown Jackson that should not be nominated to the Supreme Court of the United States. I don't believe any social justice warrior should be nominated to the Supreme Court of the United States of America. And what I'm going to do is show you how nominating people like this is not a good thing. And listen, I don't care about Ketanji. I want to make sure, because I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I don't care about her skin color. I don't give a damn. And you shouldn't either. So Ketanji Brown Jackson, listen, I want you to understand, conservatives, Republicans, no matter what you do, you're going to be called racist. You're going to be called xenophobes. You're going to be called sexist. No matter what you do, no matter how much you kiss left-wing booty, you are going to be called racist, xenophobic, transphobic, all of that stuff. So why not just grow a spine, grow a pair, and do the right thing for America? Now, odds are Ketanji Brown Jackson is going to be able to get appointed to the Supreme Court, unless we have a couple of Democrats that'll be brave enough to step up to the plate. And that is going to be extremely difficult, simply because we know that Demand Justice that's running the White House will have a say in the matter and will bring hell down on these people, along with the other global elites like George Soros that wants to be able to control America as well. All right, so who is Ketanji Brown Jackson? Let's go through this. Let's figure out who she is. I'm tired of the left always calling Republicans and Black conservatives sellouts when this lady is bought and paid for by Demand Justice and this Arabella group, which we'll get into shortly. So currently, Ketanji Brown is on the D.C. Circuit Court. And obviously, she's not Biden's nominee, but we'll pretend like, for the sake of this column, she is. Hat tip to the Daily Signal, by the way. So she is the nominee for SCOTUS, and she was among the names on a short list that was produced by, dare I say it, Demand Justice. And this isn't a liberal legal organization. As written about in the Daily Signal. This is a far left-wing radical group that wants to fundamentally transform America, and they want to, and they're hell-bent on doing just that. They're hell-bent on following Klaus Schwab, right? And they want to totally transform America. Who is Demand Justice? So Demand Justice has pushed Biden to choose someone from its Supreme Court list during the 2020 campaign. So they started as early as that. Here's what they had to say, because they heralded Jackson. They said that she stood up for the rule of law, holding the Trump administration accountable for its rule breaking. Now, the left will always talk about Trump as far as breaking rules. That's the modus operandi, to always make it look as if the Republican Party, as if conservatives, as if Trump was totally unconstitutional, when it is these people that don't follow the rule of law, when it is these people that do not play by the game. Demand Justice credited Jackson for saying presidents are not kings. no one is above the law. But sadly, this lady is going to be or act as if she's above the law. And I'll explain why. She's already shown signs that she will, because she's already decided and written on cases. Here's what Carrie Severino, the president of the Judicial Crisis Network, had to say about her, and I quote, "With the intended nomination of Ketanji Brown Jackson, Joe Biden has made it clear that his top priority is paying back the left-wing dark money network that spent over $1 billion to help elect him and the Senate Democrats." So Jackson, we know, will replace Justice Stephen Breyer. She clerked for him at one point in time before becoming a public defender, and then later she became the vice chairman or chairwoman of the U.S. Sentencing Commission. Now, it was Obama that got her start on the federal bench. So back in 2013, Obama appointed Jackson, former President Obama appointed Jackson as the U.S. District Judge for the District of Columbia. And then obviously last year, Biden appointed her to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit. Back then, Biden called Jackson one of our nation's, and I quote, one of our nation's brightest legal minds. And he added, she will be an exceptional justice, close quote. Now, this group, Arabella, Demand Justice, 1630, they're all behind this nomination. And Demand Justice started as way back, or as far back as 2018, under the fiscal sponsorship of Arabella's nonprofit 1630 Fund, before it spun off to become an independent organization. So these radical leftists are forming these groups. They're spinning off. They're forming other radical groups. And Demand Justice praised Biden for his pick. All the while, it wasn't Biden. It was not his pick. This is Demand Justice's pick. So all this time, Republicans, conservatives, black Republicans and conservatives are sellouts. Meanwhile, it is these organizations like Demand Justice that are running the White House and appointing these people, pretending as if it's Joe Biden. Joe Biden does not have a say in the matter. He just has to kiss booty and shut up, because Joe Biden is completely and utterly corrupt, and he knows it. The same is true, just like in our foreign policy. Joe Biden better bend over and take it, or with our domestic policy, Joe Biden has to bend over and take it with our foreign policy, because he's completely corrupt and he has no moral authority to speak out to Putin. For 2 decades, he called Putin. He acted like a tough guy and said, "I could see Putin's soul," and all this kind of stuff. But as soon as he got into office, it was nothing but kissing that Putin booty. So that's all Joe Biden has been doing. He's a complete and utter fraud. He's completely compromised. And so that's why Demand Justice could set the terms. That's why across the sea, Vladimir Putin and China could set the terms before Joe Biden does anything. He's completely compromised. And again, just to go back real quick, make the connection. We're experiencing a green energy war, foreign policy wise, but we're having the same type of war here. Although this isn't necessarily a green energy war that we're having domestically, the goal is to fundamentally transform America, thus fundamentally transforming the whole world. And it's basically you have China and Russia racing to be the top dog, if you will, to control the world. And then you have Demand Justice. You have now I forget his name, whatever, the guy of the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, leading the World Economic Forum. All of these people are in a race to control the world. So we're the pawns in it, right? We Americans that love freedom, we're the pawns in it. But I want to go back, obviously, too. I just want you to understand that all of these things are interconnected in order to try to destroy the United States of America, in order to try to destroy and bring down the big dog. It's pretty sick. It's evil. It's convoluted. Demand Justice is a part of that. Essentially, they're helping China and Russia, even though they're kind of battling against China and Russia. So it's yet to be seen who will be the big dogs in the world. Hopefully in 2022 and in 2024, we, the people, the American people, will have a say in who remains the big dog the big dog in the world. But I go on. Did you know that Biden dissed both James Clyburn and Lindsey Graham with this pick? Yes, they wanted someone different. They wanted, there was a lot of chatter around this woman, another black woman, district judge, or U.S. District Judge Michelle Childs. She's from South Carolina. She had the backing of Senator Lindsey Graham. She had the backing of Jim Clyburn. Remember, were it not for Jim Clyburn, Biden wouldn't be president. Biden was losing the presidential primary, and were it not for Jim Clyburn stepping up to the plate and getting the black vote for him in South Carolina and proving that Buttigieg and all these other nominees could not get the black vote, Joe Biden would not be in the White House. So he did demand justice a solid, and he wanted some play too. He wanted his legacy, all this kind of stuff. Will Clyburn put up a fight? No, he won't. He won't put up a fight because he's a useful idiot in the matter. And all that matters in the end is that the left gets their way. So Childs was not on demand justice's short list for the Supreme Court. So she was on a list, but she wasn't on the short list for demand justice. Here's what Lindsey Graham had to tweet. If media reports are accurate, and Judge Jackson has been chosen as a Supreme Court nominee to replace Justice Breyer, it means the radical left has won President Biden over yet again. Graham tweeted this on Friday, but the attacks, he goes on to say, by the left on Judge Childs from South Carolina apparently worked, close quote. Now, I think Lindsey Graham is doing damage control. All right, Lindsey Graham was great for Justice Kavanaugh, and I got to tell you, right from the onset, I wasn't a Justice Kavanaugh fan. I'm still not the biggest Justice Kavanaugh fan, but I take him over any one of the leftists, obviously, that are sitting on the court. In some areas, he's ruled well, so on, etc. I'm just a little nervous still with Kavanaugh. Going forward, we'll see what happens with that. But nonetheless, going back to this, Lindsey Graham, in my opinion, is doing damage control. And if we leave it up to Republicans like Lindsey Graham to always participate and judge, or help appoint radicals, America is in serious danger. Now, I know Lindsey Graham's argument, and again, he was fantastic with Kavanaugh. I will give him that. But I know that his argument would be something to this effect. Listen, Joe Biden is in the White House. They control the House. They control the Senate. So what I'm going to try to do is make sure out of the short list, advocate for the best person possible. Completely get that. But it's his fault in part that Ketanji Jackson is where she is. So in June of 2021, the Senate confirmed Jackson to the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals by a vote of 53-44. It was Lindsey Graham, along with fellow Republican Susan Collins of Maine, and then there was Lisa Murkowski of Alaska. I hope she loses in 2022, that joined the Democrats for the vote. Now, I know these people, they don't seem to understand that radical leftists are trying to overtake our court system, or trying to overtake the United States of America, and I think they need to be called out on this. And when possible, I think they need to be held accountable for this. We're not going to win America back by putting people on the bench, particularly the Supreme Court of the United States, that don't buy in to our Constitution. Ketanji Brown Jackson does not. She would be the most radical judge to sit on the Supreme Court of the United States if she is indeed appointed. A few more things. Jackson has a limited judicial record. She's consistently ignored the Constitution. She's twisted the law in her favor. We'll go over a couple of court cases here shortly. And did you know this? I want you to understand. Biden is not running this White House. We all know that. We're looking at this guy and like, oh my God, the guy can barely complete a sentence, but we were uncertain as to who exactly is running the White House. Well, now we know. The founder of Demand Justice, did you know this? That the founder of Demand Justice, Paige Herwig, is part of the White House legal team. Did you know that? Did you know that? It's crazy. Demand Justice also publicly advocated that Breyer retire from the court. These guys were even driving around Washington, D.C. with this big box truck with signs, retire Breyer, so on, etc. Completely insane. Here's another quote from Severino with the Judicial Crisis Network about the Arabella advisors that formed this group, Demand Justice, from the onset. She says, recently, the Arabella Advisors Network has been increasingly vocal about the fact that Jackson was their preferred nominee, the one they are sure will rubber stamp their left-wing political agendas from the bench. And then today, Joe Biden is delivering exactly who they demanded. And of course, he has to. They paid billions of dollars to get him elected because they wanted a puppet in the White House. It doesn't matter to them that the guy probably has a stockade of a year's worth of applesauce in the pantries in the White House. That doesn't matter to them. It doesn't matter that he has to slur his speech. What they needed was a puppet in the White House. And as a result of having that puppet, you see what's happening in the United States. Open borders, rising crime. It's insane. Higher inflation, supply chain shortages. The world is on fire with Demand Justice in charge of the White House, and the global world. United States is on fire with Demand Justice in charge, but so is the global world on fire with Demand Justice on board. Here's what Biden has done. This is why Demand Justice is running the White House. Not only is this lady, and I already forget her name, Paige Herwick, the founder of Demand Justice, on the White House legal team, but the people that were on that were on the list, Demand Justice's Supreme Court list, have been staffed in the White House. Did you know that? All right, so you got Xavier Becerra, and then also Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights, Kristen Clark. You got the Associate Attorney General, Vanita Gupta, and Assistant Education Secretary for Civil Rights, Catherine Lamont. All of these people come directly or have been inserted into the White House, onto the staff by Biden, but they came through the recommendation of Demand Justice. You got Senator Chuck U. Schumer in a tweet on that was enthused. He was enthused about the pick of Jackson. He says an excellent choice to be the next Supreme Court. And of course, he has to kiss Demand Justice's behind. Why? Because Demand Justice is the reason that AOC is in office, and he wants to keep his Senate seat. If AOC decides to take it, the chances are it's probably hers. So Chuck U. Schumer has no spine, has no conviction. He's a sellout to you New Yorkers. Whatever you're now seeing who's just power hungry, who wants to stay in power, who wants to continue to feed off the trough of Washington, D.C., getting wealthy or keeping their power, keeping their perks. Senator Chuck U. Schumer, and sadly, Feinstein. Feinstein sometimes would stand up to the radical left. Remember, she stood up to those little bunch of kids, the global warming, the little green energy, cookie monsters, little crumb snatchers that came up to her. Diane, Senator Feinstein, you run over. You remember all those little kids, didn't know what the hell they were talking about, but they were sent there by Demand Justice as well. These Demand Justice little punks are everywhere, including in elementary schools, apparently. All right, so here's a quote from Senator Feinstein. Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson is indisputably well qualified to serve on the Supreme Court. Feinstein said this in a tweet. She currently serves as a federal appellate judge on the D.C. Circuit Court, and before that spent 8 years as a federal district judge on the D.C. District Court. Close quote. Of course she's going to say that. I mean, she's up in age. She's no telling how long she has to live. But while she lives, she wants a comfortable life. She wants to keep her comfortable life. And so why not? She has nothing else to do except to retire and go home and die. So why not stay in Washington, just kiss booty and continue to live a good life? Now, Senator Josh Hawley, a Republican from Missouri, did oppose the vote of Judge Jackson to the D.C. Circuit Court. Good for him. When Judge Jackson appeared, and this is Hawley, last year, the Judiciary Committee appeared before the Judiciary Committee last year. He says, I was troubled by aspects of her record, including her record on crime and criminal justice. Also, he says, I will be thoroughly reviewing Judge Jackson's record from top to bottom and look forward to speaking with her. That's all you have to do. You know you're going to be called a racist anyway. Do the right thing for America. Do the right thing for the Constitution. Just say hell no to Ketanji Brown Jackson. So Biden, we know how we got here. Biden promised to appoint a black woman judge. Well, that's what Demand Justice told him to do a couple of years ago. So again, that's why the GOP can't be scared off by this. Listen, guys, we're not going to get past all of this racist stuff until we face it head on. If we continue to allow the left to press their agenda by, implementing CRT curriculum in our schools, diversity, equity, inclusion, in all of our corporations and all this kind of stuff, we are never going to get past the left's desire to racialize America. They want to segregate our children. They want us to be segregated. They want us to look at every aspect of life through the lens of skin color and race. The only way we fight it is to fight it. And that means sometimes it's going to be painful. Right now, Jackson will become the third black justice if she is appointed, the sixth female justice in American history if she is appointed. To date, the only blacks to serve on the high court have been the late Justice Thurgood Marshall. Lyndon Johnson appointed him. You had Justice Clarence Thomas. George H.W. Bush appointed him. You have Reagan that appointed the first woman in Sandra Day O'Connor. Of course, Bill Clinton followed up with another woman in the notorious RBG who recently passed away. But listen, the bottom line is I don't care about at one point in time, blacks had to fight to have a seat at the table. Women had to fight to have a seat at the table, if you will. But we have a seat at the table now. And so now what the left wants to do is pretend like they're not the party of the KKK. They want to pretend as if they're not the party that kept slavery going and pretend like Republicans are the racist party that are trying to block this lady, Ketanji Brown Jackson. The thing that Republicans could do that is not racist or the least racist is block this woman, Ketanji Brown Jackson, based upon merits. Now, again, just to reiterate, likely they won't have the votes because I'm really doubtful that Republicans will be willing to stand. Any Democrats will be willing to break rank in order to go against Ketanji Jackson. But let's hope that is not the case. They definitely should. So now let me give you a list of some of the things that Ketanji Brown Jackson has ruled on. And she's 51. So she's a year older. Is it a year older or a year younger? A year older than Justice Antonin Scalia when he was on the bench. So this chick could be on the bench for 30 years. We do not want that. Call your senators. Put some pressure on your senators. Senators should evaluate Jackson based upon these criteria strictly, if she is committed to faithfully applying the Constitution and statutes by relying on their original public meaning. Now, you get a social justice warrior, particularly a black woman on that bench that is a social justice warrior, and she thinks that America is systemically racist. Do you think she's going to apply the rule of law fairly? I do not. Another criteria, is she fair and impartial, putting facts ahead of her personal opinions? I don't think that's going to happen. Does she understand that a judge's role is limited? I'm sorry. I know this is controversial, but I think when it comes to black female social justice warriors, I think they will carry the torch into socialism brighter and further than black men will. I really do. I really think this is the secret sauce for the left. It is something about black women that will dig in their heels, claim that America is still systemically racist, protect their young men, even if they're going to prison after they've killed, raped, murdered somebody, whatever, etc., committed some type of violent crime, and they will fight you to the death to say that their child is a good person. Women believe, anyway, I don't want to go on a rabbit trail. That's a topic for another day. I'll just say that to say this. Black women, when it comes to America, if they believe America is systemically racist, I think they will fight harder to destroy America. And I think that's what you're going to have in Ketanji Brown Jackson. By the way, I do have to do a podcast on that one day, how I believe that black female radicals from the left are really doing some of the most damage to the United States of America. White leftists, obviously, too. But when you mess with a black woman, whoo, I'm telling you, I don't think anybody else will touch that topic. I will. All right. So also, will she reject another criterion? Will she reject outcome-oriented decisions? All we need to do is know who Ketanji Brown Jackson is. She was born in Washington, D.C., but she grew up in Miami. She's clerked for 3 judges, again, including Breyer. She's also worked with major corporate law firms, also as a public defender in Washington. So you know she's seen a lot of black people that were being prosecuted and defending them. While in private practice, Jackson signed on to a friend of the court brief called an amicus curiae, brief on behalf of several pro-abortion groups, defending a Massachusetts law that created a 6-foot, quote, floating buffer zone, unquote, around abortion clinics, and another on behalf of former federal judges arguing that the Detainee Treatment Act was not an adequate substitute for federal habeas corpus, a position that the Supreme Court ultimately adopted. This lady is pro Guantanamo Bay a terrorist. I'm sorry. So it's almost like she's pro-terrorist. She's anti-gun. She's pro-abortion. No, not one Republican, including Lindsey Graham, including Susan Collins of Maine, including Lisa Murkowski, should stand up for Ketanji Brown Jackson and her appointment to the Supreme Court. If they do, we need to put whatever money we can towards a candidate that is going to primary them if there aren't any that already exist. Again, the Senate voted to approve Jackson to the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals by a narrow margin of 53-44. I don't think that's so narrow. So what's her judicial record? Well, Carl, you're talking about this lady is a radical. What has she done? Okay, well, I'm glad you asked. In 2019, in a committee on the Judiciary versus McGahn, Jackson rejected a claim of executive privilege that was held at the time by former White House counsel Don McGahn, and forced him to testify before the House Judiciary Committee. And she stated, simply put, the primary takeaway from 250 years of recorded American history is that presidents are not kings. Now, she's right, absolutely right in saying that. Do you think she would apply that to Democrats? Of course she wouldn't. In 2019, in the Make the Road New York versus McAleenan, Jackson granted an injunction in favor of immigration advocacy groups that challenged the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security's designation of aliens for expedited removal. She wanted those Democrats imported into the United States. Fortunately, she was reversed by the D.C. Circuit. In 2019, in Brown versus Government of the District of Columbia, Jackson denied a motion to dismiss a First Amendment challenge to D.C.'s Panhandling Control Act. So the 5 plaintiffs were arrested for violating this law, which defines panhandling as asking or begging or soliciting for charity by the spoken, written, or printed word. Jackson concluded that their complaint, quote, plausibly alleges a viable First Amendment claim, primarily by alleging that panhandling constitutes expressive conduct. This lady is a sympathetic social justice warrior. She has no place on the bench. This is about feelings. This is about getting back at America. If you appoint this lady to the bench, Republicans, do not do it. And I pray that there will be some people in red states, states that are turning red. I pray that Senator Manchin or a Senator Kirsten Sinema will have the courage to go against the grain and not appoint this lady. But if they did so, they would come under extreme fire. Hopefully there's other people that are vulnerable, like a Senator Mark Kelly, who's going to be in for a fight for his job in 2022, this upcoming November. All right, so after joining the D.C. Circuit, Jackson signed on to an opinion upholding a lower court decision rejecting former President Donald Trump's effort to block the release of documents being held by the National Archives to the House of Representatives January 6th committee. The Supreme Court refused to intervene, with only Justice Clarence Thomas dissenting. This lady is a political hack. Her decisions are always one-sided, and they aren't on the side of the Constitution. They aren't on the side of the rule of law. They are on the side of whatever benefits the Democratic Party. In her first written majority opinion, AFL-CIO versus FLRA, Jackson invalidated a 2020 rule by the Federal Labor Relations Authority that had restricted the bargaining power of federal sector labor unions. Big labor woman. This lady she's a political hack. She is a political hack. Nothing short of a political hack. So what is her judicial philosophy? Last year, she told the Senate Judiciary Committee that she did not have a judicial philosophy per se, but was bound as a lower court judge by Supreme Court precedent. So she's bound. Listen to this. These are very, very important words. She's saying that she's bound by Supreme Court precedent, not that she's bound by the Constitution, but by Supreme Court precedents. In response to written requests from Senator Charles Grassley, Republican from Iowa, here's what she wrote. That she was bound, and I quote, bound by the methods of constitutional interpretation that the Supreme Court has adopted. So she's not an originalist, and I have a duty not to opine on the Supreme Court's chosen methodology or suggest that I would undertake to interpret the text of the Constitution in any manner other than as the Supreme Court has directed. Who on the Supreme Court? This lady is a radical. That's all you need to know. And her supporters are demand justice. These are the people that are putting her in the White House. Republicans, beware. Constitutional loving Americans, beware. Just say hell no when it comes to Ketanji Brown Jackson on the Supreme Court. The lady shouldn't go anywhere near it. Anywhere near it. She should not be seated. And Republicans, this is a fight that you should have. I'm so sick and tired of weak-kneed Republicans so worried and concerned about being called names while the left destroys the United States of America. Grow up here. Now, what are the ramifications of having a social justice warrior on the Supreme Court of the United States or on any federal bench for that matter? Let me take you to a man by the name of Matthew Perna. Have you heard of Matthew Perna, Gabe? Any chance you heard of Matthew Perna? Now, the left doesn't want anyone to hear about Matthew Perna. Hat tip, just the news. January 6th defendant reportedly commits suicide. This is how this impacts everyday people like you and I. When we get social justice warriors on the bench, they destroy lives because they don't follow the Constitution. They don't follow the rule of law. And innocent men and women are unnecessarily imprisoned for it. And this is the case with the January 6th defendant, Matthew Perna. So January 6th defendant, Matthew Perna, has reportedly taken his own life after his family said he was bullied to death. He was bullied to death by the Department of Justice despite having not committed a violent crime. So, American Greatness senior writer Julie Kelly, love her. Make sure you read all of her writings at AM Greatness about 1/6. She tweeted on Sunday morning that she had heard the reports that the January 6th defendant had committed suicide. And then she went on to say, if confirmed, this defendant committed no violent crime and walked through an open door with Capitol Police present. Biden's DOJ has tried to destroy so many lives over the past year, they may have another victim. Kelly called the January 6th protesters sadistic and said at least one other January 6th defendant has committed suicide. This is troubling. We have political prisoners, and you have judges like Ketanji Brown Jackson that are nothing more than political hacks, social justice warriors on the bench. They don't belong because they don't apply the rule of law fairly. It's based upon skin color. It's based upon party affiliation. That is not the United States of America. That is not our Constitution. It's a shame. Later in the day, Kelly tweeted the story was true. She goes on to say, and I quote, "I cannot express the rage I feel after speaking with his family. More on this tomorrow," she says. According to his obituary, which you can read online if you go to Just the News and read January 6th defendant reportedly commits suicide. You can read his obituary. Click on the link. On Flynn Funerals Home's website, Perna died on February 25th, 2022. So just a couple of days ago, he committed suicide. And the obituary says, "Of a broken heart, the justice system killed his spirit and his zest for life." Well, if he broke into the Capitol, he should have been punished by the fullest extent of the law. Shut up. You guys know exactly what the left is trying to do with January 6th. You know exactly how they're trying to politicize this thing. A.G. Barr coming out. I was so thankful that A.G. Barr has appointed John Durham. And now there's news breaking today that he's going after former President Donald Trump and saying because of January 6th, he shouldn't even be the nominee in 2024. I had so much respect for A.G. Barr. I didn't even agree with some of the things that Trump would say about him, but this is disgraceful. Utterly disgraceful. The obituary explains that Perna attended the January 6th rally, and where are those videos, by the way? Where are those videos? 14,000 hours of video that could prove this man to be innocent. The obituary explains that Perna attended the January 6th rally and entered the Capitol through an open door where police ushered him in. Sadly, some of our police that were trying to get this setup going. He stayed within the velvet ropes in the Capitol building. He took pictures there without hurting anyone. He didn't break anything. He didn't touch anything. He reportedly turned himself in as soon as he knew the FBI was looking for him just because he was in the building. The constant delays in the hearings and the postponements dragged out for over a year. And because of this, Matt's heart broke. This according to his family, or what was written in the obituary. So because of this, and I'm quoting, Matt's heart broke and his spirit died, and many people are responsible for the pain he endured, close quote. Perna was described in the obituary as and I quote, "a Christian who read his Bible daily and did not have a hateful bone in his body," unquote. Perna was arrested in Sharpsville, Pennsylvania on January 19th of 2021 and indicted more than a month later. Just because the Biden administration and Demand Justice wanted this narrative of this Capitol breach. They want you to forget about everything that happened in the George Floyd summer riots in 2020, when police officers were literally killed. Federal buildings broken into, no charges. We didn't see any charges. Cities set aflame. They want you to forget about all that and pretend like January 6th is the biggest thing since Pearl Harbor, like the idiot Vice President Kamala Harris said. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So Perna pleaded guilty in December to January 6th related charges, including obstructing an official proceeding, disorderly and disruptive conduct, and entering the remaining in a restricted area, according to the Department of Justice, despite the fact that he was ushered in the building by police and did nothing. In the DOJ's statement of facts, Perna claimed to only be inside of the Capitol for 5 to 10 minutes after being pushed into the building by a crowd. And that it was not his intention to even enter the Capitol. His sentencing was scheduled for March 3rd. Perna faced up to 20 years in prison and a $250,000 fine, as well as other penalties for misdemeanors. Are you kidding me? For being ushered into the Capitol building by corrupt police officers. This guy commits suicide. Guys, we can't have social justice warriors on the bench that exist in D.C. that are doing everything possible to make the lives of patriots, make the lives of Trump supporters, of freedom lovers miserable. This is sad. This is a shame. This lady, Ketanji Brown Jackson, must not be appointed to the Supreme Court. Any Republican that does not stand against her stands against you and I. And we need to make sure their butts are kicked out of office. All right, guys, listen, I'm going to ask you one more time to follow me on Facebook, Carl Jackson Radio, Twitter, and Parler at Carl Jackson Show, and subscribe to the podcast and share the podcast anywhere podcasts are found, particularly Apple, Google, Spotify, Rumble, YouTube. Make sure you click the bell on YouTube, and please like and share those pages. I appreciate every single one of you out there. And until next time, don't grow weary doing good. God bless you.